I think I'm trying to avoid a certain topic that has been bugging me since I was probably old enough to go to school, which is I guess it tells you a lot, because of my hesitation. I tried to make this video, except I had a few false starts by getting distracted listening to music and doing all sorts of anything else just to get out of bringing up this topic. And well, welcome to my channel of poop quality videos. Excuse the sound, that is the sound of white noise, lots and lots of white noise, very annoying white noise. The sound of my steam train sounding laptop. It doesn't sound as bad as it does in the recordings, because in the recordings it sounds terrible. And again, I'm trying to evade the topic entirely, because I don't like talking about it. And yeah, to stop beating around the bush, I will try and get to the topic at hand. I'm not even sure how I'm going to title this, because it's a very sensitive topic. Yeah. Well, I just want to start fiddling and doing anything else, but rather than bring this topic up. So, yeah, I see already a fair amount of time has gone by, and it's creating a bit of a problem. Spitting out is a lot harder than it seems. The topic would be anorexia, basically. There, said it. Or why am I so skinny? I'm not sure which route to go down in terms of this topic. Whether I should bring up the possible side effects or other things that may be very similar to the disorder of anorexia or other eating disorders, but I just don't know. Like, now my eyes itch. Yeah, I think if I basically had a dollar or a pound every single time somebody asked if I was anorexic, or if I throw up my food, or if I never eat or something, or some backhanded compliment, or flat out just extreme passive aggressiveness from some people. It's very hard to differentiate between concern and then fake concern, at least in my case. But I've experienced this problem more so being in the UK. I don't think actually, when I think about this, I don't think I ever had this problem in France. I don't think it's seen as a problem. Maybe it is a problem, but then again, no, I think it has been mentioned, but not so much. It's not like I was the only one who basically just looked, I guess, naturally skinny in France, or maybe even too skinny by certain standards, or cultural standards, or country standards, or health standards, official health standards. So again, this is a really hard topic to bring up, because so many people have, sometimes they don't ask questions, sometimes they just flat out come up to me and say, "You're anorexic, aren't you?" Like, or "You throw up," and other things again, I'm getting a bit blocked trying to say this because it's quite upsetting, and I'm really good at hiding how upset I am. other things are like, don't throw that up, like, oh, you're not going to go puke, are you? And the answer is no, no, and no, and no, and no. And then, like, what do you do when people say, they continue to make comments? Well, one, they don't necessarily say, I don't believe you, but I think I can't remember, because it's happened so many times since I was old enough to, yeah, just like go to school, that I can't remember every single comment, because if I kept track of every single comment, I think my head would explode. And the most frustrating thing is people have made it into some kind of circus act, where people, like, I've had friends do this, and an ex-boyfriend that did this. Like, I think they'd grab my wrist and like drag, like sort of like pull me, like grab my wrist and drag me to their friends or family members or something, and then they just do awful things, like say, like imagining this is the other person's hands. They grab my wrist and be like, look how skinny she is. Oh my god, I've never seen anybody with such small, tiny little bones. Oh, like, just implying I'm a freak. And then the other thing as well is, like, even at any heavier weight, my arms are apparently the weirdest arms ever. Like, they just, like, they look broken. Like, this is my arms if I put my hands like this. Even like this, they look broken. I mean, yeah. And the end result is I just look like a bit knobbly and like completely weird. And people have, like, so-called people in my life have just, like, without giving a shit how I feel, basically, they just grab my arm and just inspect it and just like measure my arm and do all kinds of things. And the most frustrating thing is I was born underweight. All my life I've been underweight. I've never like, as in I was born underweight. That's like saying somebody was born fat, basically. That's the closest equivalent. And by fat I don't mean baby fat. You've got to imagine, if that's even possible, can a baby be born fat, like morbidly obese? Well, I was born extremely underweight because I wasn't growing, and I was shoved in a tank for an entire month, and I was very, very sick, and I was extremely tiny as well, and I don't know if that plays a part in it, but again, here I am, I find myself justifying the reasons to something I feel like I've had no control over my entire life. And even when I've managed to gain some control over my diet, the end result is gorging on food until I feel sick as a dog. And by sick, the average passerby, which I find utterly cruel, if I even mentioned feeling sick, trying to force food into my tiny stomach and what feels like really small organs in general, people would just be like, one more bite, and I'd be like, okay, sure. I used to eat actually a lot more anyway. Like, when I went through a growth spurt, I wonder if I was always hungry, basically. Like, I've been through a phase in my life where I think I ate more than, yeah, I ate more than even my siblings. I don't know if I ate more than my parents, and some of my siblings, they ended up being getting fat at one point. Well, one of them did, and I don't know. Like, I just don't know. Like, what answer do you want me to give you, or what answer am I supposed to give so-called caring friends and caring family or caring classmates who just flat out make it? They don't ask a question. They make this weird, monotone, very aggressive, like, you have an eating disorder, don't you? Or like, I can't do it like this. How they do it, basically. Like, but it's happened so many times where it's just like, how can I? Yeah, like, let me try again. I don't know. Or something like, you never eat, or like, I don't know, maybe that I'm just like being too flat, but there's like this intensity to the statements made of people who have never asked, especially people who've never shown any interest in my life, people I had to attend a class with even in like my teen years, late teen years, adult years. They never asked how I'm doing, or like showed any concern. And like, how are these people on my side then if they don't show any concern? And the only concern they show is like a statement in the form of, it feels almost like a bullet, like it's just wham, like that, and then it's like it doesn't even allow for me to interact with said person. And the few times I've tried to say anything back, they just, I don't know, it's like they act weird, like they act like they didn't hear what I said, or they'll add an extra statement and be like, yeah, right, yeah, whatever, you know, and or even worse, they'll be like, are you sure? Like, this weird fake concern. I don't know, but it's not right, I think. And even like, I did research like a bit more in recent years what anorexia is, and it seems to be the standard definition, at least what I thought it was, is that it's a mental disorder where you see yourself as, the standard definition anyway, I'm like, maybe it's changed since then, or it includes extra things that change over the years, but from what I learnt officially or growing up, is anorexia is a belief that you need to keep on losing weight and you see yourself as fat. Now, I understand not everyone is in the same box, and not everyone, because it's a very delicate topic, isn't it? No, isn't it? So I can't really, I don't know if I can really comment on this, and I just find myself making many false starts trying to get to the point of this, and it's just very frustrating. It's quite jarring, and it just ruins my day. Or like, I remember my ex-boyfriend would say things like, in this silly accent, he'd say all the time, like, meat is for the man, bone is for the dog, kind of things. And in the last few years, there's been this push for basically like, you know, real women have curves scenario, and I honestly like killing yourself, like, which is kind of rare, to be honest. I really have nothing against like curvy people or so-called even fat people. If you want to be fat or if you want to be curvy, note I do say there's a difference. But I mean, maybe it could be both too, but like, I don't know. But like, I've always been the skinny kid, but I've always kind of been friends with, I guess you could say, the fat kids, and I would have never dared to say they look fat. But it never stopped these people, usually bigger girls. They weren't even always necessarily fat themselves, these girls, but the bigger people, but not just the bigger people, just anybody even. It seemed like they had this superior right to make comments on how skinny I was and how I starved myself, and anything I'd say would be shut down with an implication that you're wrong, and it would make me so angry and frustrated. And I kind of like sort of shut down because I have suppressed so many emotions over it, because that's not even including being bullied and being beaten up severely, being assaulted, and being sexually assaulted and publicly humiliated in front of an entire class multiple times. the way I say it sounds even so fake and monotone, but it's just, how do I even begin to bring up this issue of weight when it's its own whole separate issue on top of everything else I've gone through. And I sometimes do wonder, maybe there is some truth to this eating disorder thing, because it seems like you can have eating disorder symptoms without actually having delusions of your body or a warped perspective of your body. Because I've always looked in the mirror and I've always been frustrated and disappointed that I was not enough. I was never big enough. I was never strong enough. I was never thick enough. I was never curvy enough. I wasn't pretty enough as a result. I wasn't a real girl because I didn't develop in terms of puberty until I was like maybe 14, 15, 16 years old, and even then I don't know if it's the clothes I wore, but I don't think I actually started getting curves until maybe my 20s, and I think I just shot up in height. That's I don't think I had time to catch up. If I hadn't gone through a growth spurt, I suspect that any remaining fat would have sort of like stayed in the right places, like the extremities of my arms and legs. But unfortunately, I think I was like almost stockier when I was like 15, and then what happened is I went through a growth spurt at a rather late age. I thought girls stop growing at age 18, and apparently men stop growing at age 21, but I actually grew in height after age 18, so I must have had some delayed kind of puberty type thing, which made it all the more confusing. And also, I wasn't worrying about weight. I didn't worry about weight, and I didn't worry about anything in particular. I never counted calories as a kid. I did look at the ingredients though, because I used to be covered in head to toe eczema, and people, like kids, thought I was a leper or something, and that they thought it was contagious. People did not know what it was in the 90s apparently, and it was so rare to have like bloody eczema, and it's just horrible. It's so itchy, like it's hard to even begin to explain. So I was taught from a very young age to read the packets of ingredients, so I had to avoid things with food colorings and MSG or GMO things, because I would end up in hives, and otherwise, especially from continued eating of such processed products with crap in it basically. And aside that, like, yeah, I understand, I do read ingredients on the packets, but it's more so, it's just to make sure it doesn't have some additive that I will react to. And I could talk about how I feel about this, but it's really hard. It's just so hard, and I do know the facts, and the facts are easier to bring up than to talk about how I feel about this. And like, I think I did some research, and apparently there's a higher correlation. Again, this is just my personal opinion. It's my personal opinion, and this is not meant to be medical or like factual information, and it's just my opinion. Okay, I could be wrong, but I've read papers, medical papers, that there's a higher incidence or correlation between autism, ADHD, and eating disorders, especially anorexia or just overall low weight problems. And I think there's a possibility in that, because like maybe some of these kids or adults, well, women who have it, like it becomes very hard to concentrate on eating when you're just fixated on the most basic things to function. I don't know if this makes sense, really. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I don't know, like, I never felt that way. Like, I've never got this rush. Apparently, again, I'm putting all autistic people in the same box, but some autistic people have been known to have their special obsessions and interests, which can be quite compulsive. And if there's a high incidence correlation anyway, between Asperger's, autism, ADHD, and eating disorders in women, therefore maybe they become obsessed with counting calories, like kind of like a game or something. I don't know. I'm getting chest pain as I'm trying to say this. Like, it's very stressful. Like, the other thing is there's a higher correlation between, I can't remember now. Like, my brain's going blank now. I'm starting to think again if my brain's trying to sort of mildly dissociate from this whole situation, because it makes me so uncomfortable, and I don't know. It's very frustrating because I'm not really convinced I have an eating disorder, but I actually think I may have a medical disorder. Oh, underlying health problem. I just remembered the other thing is there's a higher correlation between allergies, another paper, high incidence of people with multiple allergies, autoimmune conditions, that somehow is correlated with anorexia as well. So it makes me wonder if, like, the initial cause for some people with eating disorders might be allergies. And the thing is, I have found myself in a situation about, well, last year, where I fell suddenly sick in January, but it happened a few months prior to that, where I started ending up being covered in boils or kind of like hives in the most, let's say, embarrassing and necessary areas of my body that need movement, the joint areas, I guess you could say. And everything created these boils to the point it was so painful, like 9 out of 10 pain. I was bedridden for weeks, and I had to make salves to cover them and hope they would drain. And I was like thinking, gosh, I'm skinny and I'm trying to gain weight, and I was at a higher weight then and now. And then I found myself unable to even eat peas with food additives, and I couldn't eat potatoes, I couldn't eat bread, I couldn't eat corn, I couldn't eat peas, I couldn't eat spicy food. Spicy food just triggered it as well. I couldn't eat lentils. It was absolute hell. Like, and random things would trigger it. Sometimes it was dairy, sometimes it's like I'd just blow up basically, and it would vary as well. But at first it was just like everything was triggering it, so I tried to go on an autoimmune diet, basically a diet for people who are extremely chemically sensitive to foods. And at one point I was ruling out grains temporarily because I suspected that I had leaky gut, and because I was not digesting anything, and at one point, like, brown rice felt like shards of glass, let's just say, when I went to the bathroom or something. I don't see the point in sort of concealing the not so nice details, because if I did conceal those details, I don't think anyone realizes the extent of how much agony I was in. And even then, before this occurred, about a year ago, before it took me a year to like sort of rule out certain foods and figure out what I'm triggered by, and go on a vegan diet for several months, but plant-based. I didn't even touch bread, I didn't even touch anything. I was starving myself, my body was hungry all the time, and all I wanted was to eat a nice big juicy burger. And I was so scared I'd end up in agonizing pain. And I still am to this day. I also have undiagnosed celiac. I think I have the genetic component to it, which basically means your gut lining like you have micro holes in it, and it floats into your bloodstream and then produces hives or allergic reactions or other autoimmune problems. Because once you have an autoimmune disorder, it can create even more autoimmune disorders, and you end up having multiple autoimmune disorders, and it's agony. It's just horrible. I found myself not wanting to talk about this, and now I'm just distracting myself. So I don't know what to do with this now. It's sweet. Yeah. Basically, I think that's quite possible. Yeah, maybe I do have some kind of eating disorder based off this massive scare, but I don't, when I look in the mirror, I do not see some fat person. All I've ever wanted, I have eaten foods I'm allergic to. I've eaten foods that have given me agonizing gut pain for hours on end. I've forced entire whole pizzas down my throat when I was 14, 15 years old, trying to prove a point, trying to prove to my family, trying to prove to people in school that I was not a freak and that I'm normal, just like them. And all it did was make me sick, and now as an adult I realised I'd been eating possibly the worst diets ever, because I'm also lactose intolerant. It doesn't stop me trying to eat cheese. I'm celiac, meaning, or like gluten intolerant. Like, I'm not sure which one's which exactly. I know there's like different things, but basically if I eat red, I get like boil-like acne on my face. If I eat too much cheese or too much full fat dairy, especially ice cream being the worst, I get these just boil-like acne on my face. Now, not only is the face, it's not just the face that's a problem. Like, if it was just that, maybe I'd just cover it up with makeup and just pretend everything's okay. But when my body started, I started getting fevers and boils and just like, and not just that, like agonizing joint pain. It felt like my joints were on fire. I knew something was basically wrong. And I'm sorry if this is basically boring and tedious, but it's so hard to bring up, basically, because I went on holiday to like Portugal. I think it was by now. Yeah, it was last year, and there was like a food buffet type thing, and I was quite limited in what I could and couldn't eat. So I ate as much as I could of all the meat and seafood and plants and fruit. So even though I was vegan, like in that context, like I was okay after several months on this diet, I think, on meat, because I don't know, I wanted to try a low inflammatory diet by being vegan and plant-based, because I read that too much meat can create inflammation. However, I find that my body definitely, like, to a certain degree, needs meat, and it's awful because, like, I wish I could have, like, stayed vegan, but I could not even eat a lot of vegan foods because I was intolerant to those. Because I'm intolerant to soy, I get, like, horrible reactions to soy, horrible agonizing pain in terms of digestion and like boil-like acne. I get horrible reactions to bread and other bread-related things, and boil-like acne and agonizing pain. I also have really bad reactions to just so many things, basically, that are considered healthy and good for you on the vegan diet. I cannot process soy, and it's just like it hurts so much, especially in terms of period pains. Like, this agonizing pain every single month is not worth it. I've tried a few times to have a bit of it again, and it's just, it doesn't go well. I suspect fermented forms of soy, like maybe like tofu. I don't know, but almost all soy is basically GMO now. Unless I suppose there's non-GMO soy that's grown in Japan or something, and they ferment it and stuff. I'm not entirely sure of that process. I try not to bring too many long winding details on other things, but when I was at this resort type buffet thing, I ate so much meat. I was having like steaks, and my plates were like mountains, kind of like vegans. I've seen raw vegans have massive piles of fruits and vegetables. So I'd make these plates of massive piles of fruits and vegetables and anything I could eat. And then I'd have massive piles of seafood, and then I'd have massive piles of rice, and then I'd have massive piles of meat. And of course I ate all the vegetables first, because it seems like the first thing to digest, I guess. As in it digests faster, same with fruit, say with eating meat and grains, which is a lot harder to digest than soy. So, and I remember my partner's mother made a comment when I went to the bathroom, and she said, "Oh, you're not going to throw that up, are you?" And she made multiple comments, and I was just like floored, because I don't understand like what I did to kind of deserve like a comment like that, and I told my partner about that. But again, he said like, "Oh, like my family are being nice to you," and things. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's just like, I'm sure even if she was being nice overall, it's just like she obviously did not think about how it would affect me making that comment, and I felt awful, and I thought there's nothing I can say, because again I had that fear that I will be shut down again, yet again, because another woman or another person assumed I would throw up. For one, I don't think I've ever thrown up on purpose my food in my entire life, because I have a phobia of throwing up. I cannot, like, I'm the kind of person that if I ate something poisonous, you would have to give me medicine to make me throw up, because I cannot throw up for the life of me. And I've binged eat, and I didn't throw up. Like, it happened once, but that's because I caught the flu. Within 24 hours or something, I had the flu, and I ate so much food, and I had the virus in my system. I just ate so much, and then I threw up so much, apparently I covered the entire, like, living room floor. It was like a horror movie, apparently, and my family, this was when I was 14, they said, "How could you fit so much food in such a small body?" Because at the time, I think I was like 5'5", and I was quite, like, I was basically what you consider like petite, but since I went through my growth spurt, like, I just shot up, I guess, and it's weird because my limbs kind of grew, but my torso didn't. I have a very small torso, so when I'm sat down, I'm the shortest person. When I'm standing up, I'm just all leg, basically, and it's really, really annoying, because the contrast is so ridiculous, and it's annoying being taller than some guys as well. I'm not that tall either. However, by my racial standards, I guess I would be considered rather tall, because I'm half Asian, and my grandmother is she even 5 foot? I don't know, she's so short, it's like, she's almost like, she's not as wise, but she's almost like Yoda. Like, she's so small. Like, I don't know how that's even possible. And, yeah. But tall people on one side of the family, ones in my family, like, they can be, like, quite abnormally tall, and I suspect there's a genetic component to being extremely tall and skinny, not on both sides of the family necessarily. And I've read that there's like there's two kinds of like not autoimmune, genetic syndromes basically, and one of them is Marfan syndrome, where it makes extremely like long arms and long legs, and I don't know, like the bones are like really small. I'm not sure if they're always really small though. The thing is though, in East Asia and Asia, like in general, it's quite normal like to have, not everyone has this, but in Asia you'll find a lot more people built like me. And in like Asia, as in East Asia, like China and Japan, I'd be considered, and I have been considered completely normal. Like my bone structure is the exact same, like small bones, same. Maybe I'm a little bit taller, give or take, but not always either. And even, I don't know, like in France as well, I think like there's a lot more people that they don't all have the same structure, but like I'd say half of the people I went to school with in France, the girls, they have really small like bones as well. And I don't know if it's just normal, like maybe it is in some cases, because I don't want to just say, oh, I have a genetic disorder. But my own mother does have a genetic syndrome called it's very hard to pronounce, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which can cause like problems in the joints and things like that. And I hope I don't have that, but there are several types, and like I don't like the idea of any genetic syndrome because like some of my family members display signs of officially Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and others, especially maybe some of the men, like Marfan syndrome. And then they have some of them also have symptoms of celiac. Yeah, the list goes on. And my family have a history of thyroid problems. I'm not sure, like in this case, both sides of the family. And what I find extremely frustrating is, I think, again, like there's two types of thyroid problems. Like one, if you're hypothyroid, you'll have difficulty losing weight, and you'll have just like sort of melty looking aspect to your face, and like maybe you'll have like sort of receding chin. Not always though, I don't know, like it just seems like it doesn't look basically right here. I'm not a doctor, it's just out of observation. And usually it's just like you cannot lose the weight, it's just entirely stubborn because of a malfunctioning thyroid, because you're just exhausted. And I find that if your adrenals, which are the organs further down here, which produce cortisol and gives you energy to just keep on going, if you wear those out, it seems to affect the thyroid, which is here, and like basically if your system is down in terms of your adrenals down here, it can affect everything, and I think it can worsen autoimmune conditions. The other type of thyroid condition is being hyperthyroid. People with hyperthyroidism have difficulty gaining weight, and they may have like goiter, which is like a lump here, like it just looks enlarged, the thyroid gland. Like they will tend to be, not always, but like sweaty and a bit shaky, and they just can keep on eating and eating and eating, and they cannot gain weight basically. And I don't actually eat that much. I probably should eat more. But that's more of a recent occurrence. It's extremely frustrating to explain. It's like I've had so many like conditions basically that people just don't understand. Even doctors don't understand fully because they never had it themselves. That they just act like, oh, it's just you're just making it all up. You're fine. You look fine. Oh, and another, it's not always a guarantee of thyroid conditions, is your eyes start to bulge. And the thing is, like, mine might be genetic, as in I may have been born with it, but my eyes looked normal. It's hard to tell because I'm wearing makeup, but like your eyes, like basically they bulge more than they should off the sides of the skull. and I don't know, like, there's a high possibility I may have had hyperthyroidism when I was younger, and all my siblings, they kind of displayed sort of like genetic problems, basically, autoimmune problems, and all of them basically. And it seems like everyone takes turns with going through phases in terms of health problems over the years, because you can go from hyperthyroid or being really skinny, and then you one day wake up and then all of a sudden you just explode, like as in you get fat, like 40 or something, or 30, depending on how stressed out you are, or how, I don't know, it depends on like your circumstances and how much stress you put your body under, on top of the genetic predisposition of triggering sort of flick to the other side, which is getting suddenly fat. And both my parents were apparently immensely skinny until basically, I guess, their mid-30s, and then after that, then like they just got basically fat, and like, I don't know what to say about that really. And now it seems like I'm kind of justifying this like possible eating disorders to be actually just a genetic problem. Maybe so, but I'm neither confirming nor denying the situation. I'm just basically upset with basically how I feel, you know, I've been treated as, like, I feel like I've been dehumanized. On like, you never go up to a fat person and say, you know, you're fat, or like you have an eating disorder, like, because fat people can technically have anorexia, because I'm not entirely sure how, but apparently you can, like, you can actually be fat and have an eating disorder, but like usually based off sort of mental condition or sort of warped state of mind. And it's immensely frustrating, because I'd be rich by now for all the times people make comments about my weight. Because at the end of the day, okay, maybe I don't eat enough, but like, if I don't eat enough, like, this does not help, like, what I have going on here, because the contrast is stupid. Maybe some people have this too. I don't know, I just realized, like, any fat content I have goes to here, or like certain places basically, and you wouldn't know unless I was basically walking around butt naked, or like wearing extremely revealing clothing generally. And I don't like walk around like this in public because I feel really uncomfortable. My arms already really skinny, and it's just a mess. Now I sound like I'm just being like full of myself talking about my potential condition. And to make matters worse, is I've always had difficulty, like, this looks way too skinny and it looks so warped, but again, like, I've always had, apart from this year has been really bad, the last year, in terms of allergies, so I have actually lost weight, and now I'm trying to figure out how to gain weight. My wrists have always been tiny, my hands have always pretty much looked the same, although I do feel bonier, and I don't like this feeling. I don't like feeling bony. I don't like just, like, I hate it. Like, it's not nice when you sit on the chair and you feel your bum go numb after a while, and it's not nice, like, knowing like you don't need like fat, at least enough fat on the bone here, like at the elbows, and you, let's say you whack your elbow, it's just like hitting, it's horrible, like if you actually knock yourself, and it's, especially in the joint area. I've always been rather skinny, but like at the moment it's pretty bad, and I'm worried that my muscles are atrophying because of my allergies last year, and even this year I have to be careful with what I eat, and just constant fear, and I don't like it. I can't just go back to eating what I used to like gorge on, because it made me miserable, and it was agonizing pain, like every single month, or I can't go to the bathroom for an entire week trying to eat normal foods, to be normal, to look normal, to fit in, and all I've ever wanted to be or do is basically fit in, which sounds absurd, because it's like I do not like drawing attention to myself, unless it's probably good, like, or like just normal. Like, I don't understand why somebody would want to destroy their bodies and get attention. Maybe it's a form of pity, but it's just cruel. I find it utterly cruel. And so, like I find that, like, this is a bad example, but this year, but up to a certain point, like, I've always had, like, fairly high muscle mass, as in, like, but I've never been able to sort of digest fat. Like, if I eat fat, pardon me, it goes straight through me, and I get, like, pain in my gallbladder region. I get really, really sick if I try and eat fatty foods. And I love fat foods, like, I'm always craving them, and I eat and eat them, and nothing happens. And all that happens is I get massive, like, cystic acne, like, all over my face if I eat anything fatty, except meat. Because I've tried having, like, high fat content vegan foods, like nuts. I react to some nuts. Like, I have a sister, I have relatives that are deathly allergic, they cannot be in the same room as peanuts. And, you know, I'm not that bad, but if I eat a few peanuts, I get these awful boil-like acne on my face. Same with soy. Soy and peanuts, I can't have that, and it's in almost everything. Like, I'm not gonna die from traces of peanuts. I'm not, like, I don't have that kind of problem, and I don't have issues from traces of soy or traces of this and the other. Although gluten's more of a problem. But, like, other than that, like, I can carry really heavy shopping bags, and it's just like, this sounds ridiculous. Like, I'm convinced. I mean, apart from, like, being generally weak, which is not good in the last, like, year or so, because I probably have not been eating, like, enough, like, being unable to eat enough. But I'm able to basically, yeah, maybe apart from opening jars, but that's like I've had this problem in the last few months trying to open jars, which makes me wonder. I really do need to sort of, like, gain weight. I'm probably really unfit as well, and I'm starting to get bored about talking about this topic, because it's just, I don't know where I'm going here. I went to see the doctor before I started having an allergic reaction, so when I was gorging on bread and cheese, and I had acne all over my face and my back and my chest and yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. But that was before I started having weird allergic reactions. That was maybe a year or two ago. I went to the GP and I said, how can I gain weight? And they didn't really help me. And I said, I think I might have a problem here, because I eat and I can't seem to gain weight. And the GP, all he did was ask, he said, are you sure you're not anorexic? And I was, like, thinking, what kind of question is that? And he said, do you eat 3 meals a day? I, in fact, did eat 3 meals a day, and plus snacks. And I was extremely upset and distraught, because, again, I had a blood test, and they never came back with any results. I'm not sure if I was supposed to contact them or something. So, I don't know, just, like, I think the blood test was too general anyway, because, like, it doesn't, I don't know. So that was rather upsetting. I don't know, I've had, like, some strange doctors who have given me strange advice, which is untrue. Like, one doctor told me to gargle paracetamol in my throat, and I asked them to repeat, like, I repeated it back to them, and I said, you want me to gargle paracetamol? And he said, yes. Or when I had mono, and they didn't diagnose me with mono, this doctor, and I don't know if it was mono, it might have been flu or something else actually, but I had these lumps in my throat. They wouldn't go down, not just my throat, but I mean, like, just along my neck, and I didn't have a fever or anything necessarily. I've noticed when I get sick, I rarely get a fever, and I think it's due to toxic mold poisoning, or like in a compromised immune system. Some people, they cannot produce a fever very well, and if you don't produced normal symptoms like a normal person, the doctor might not even think there's anything wrong with you, except I was born with a lower than normal body temperature. So, but the thing is, if my body temperature increases, even if it didn't look like much, I would feel sick as a dog. And I find it really frustrating, because like, if you're born with a lower than normal body temperature, like born just like that, like, that's your default, you're used to that. If it increases at all, like, I don't see why I'd feel less worse than somebody who has a naturally higher body temperature and then increases in their fever. It's just not seen as serious. And again, I feel like I've always missed the mark when it comes to a lot of things, seeing doctors over the course of my life, and I don't know, like, my family have said, like, jokingly said, like, maybe we're cursed and things like that, relating to health problems, like mystery problems no one knows the cause of. And thanks to the internet, and I don't mean being hypochondriac and researching, like, oh, I might have cancer, and the end result is some extreme disease. The fact is, multiple people in my family, they have been officially diagnosed with such problems like this, genetic problems, thyroid problems, and if you're just born as having it, maybe people don't see it as a problem, but I think very much it can be a problem. Like, a part of me feels like this is not, I can't get this out, I cannot process this, because I still feel kind of numb talking about this. Like, I just feels like pain, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, at one point I thought, like, I even thought maybe I should just, the craziest thought I had maybe last year after getting extremely sick and realizing like I'm having these awful reactions to food, and it wasn't because of the food, and it wasn't because of just the physical ill health, but it's how I felt at the time, because I was basically, I guess you could say, being bullied, but not like at the time necessarily. But I think all the nasty comments and things people have said to me, even in my adult years, more recently, kind of coalesce into one giant ball of pain. And on top of it, when I felt ill, I was at my worst state emotionally. I was basically, like, I don't really say it, but just, I was not in a good place at all. I even thought existentially, like, why am I even here? Like, what's the point of even existing if, like, no matter how hard I've tried all my life to be normal, the end result is people still think I'm a freak, people still make comments about my weight, people still grab my wrist as an adult, women more so than men, and it's just like, look, I'm not, every single time I want to scream to these people, usually more so women and men, it's just like, I don't care about your weight, so why do you care about mine? Like, why do you care? Like, I eat just as much as you, and, like, at least at the time I did. And the thing is, in last year I've been, I guess you could say, depressed, so I've been forgetting to eat as much, and because I'm always tired and sleeping, and it's absolute hell. And I've gone through so much, like, yeah, food is a hard thing to remember. And even when I do remember it, it's now I have to be careful what I can eat. And I find it just ridiculous, basically. And I'm annoyed because it's like, why should I take comments, especially from, like, men? I don't know, just or people in general. Like, what am I supposed to say to them? Like, what am I supposed to insult them back? Am I supposed to, like, cry? Am I supposed to just walk away? Am I supposed to just sit there with a smile on my face and just say, yes, I have an eating disorder. I have an eating disorder and I starve myself and vomit just for your personal pleasure. Because, like, I'm a loser that is obsessed about gaining attention. And I love the feel of, like, crunchy bones. And I love to feel sick. I love to feel damaged. I love to be broken. No. Why would I want to be that? Why? Why would I want to be that? That's not who I am. Like, I've always admired, like, strong women, like, not necessarily, like, bigger women by default, but I mean, just curvier women. Also, like, I don't know, it's just cool, basically, to look fit, and I used to pride myself in being fit. I used to be very active, and I used to be quite good at sports. I used to do martial arts. I used to do football. I used to play basketball. All sorts of things. I used to cycle. I did eat a lot of crap though. I was still eating crap that I was basically having awful reactions to and going to the bathroom and being in agonizing pain often. But I did look thicker, as in, so I looked normal. But the problem is, like, if I try to even do that now, even if I did all the exercise on top of it, I will not even be digesting the food I'm intolerant to. It will just go straight through me, especially like fat. I struggle with fat these days. Like, I don't seem to be able to digest fats like I used to anymore, unless it's maybe like fat of the meat. I don't know how, like, it's somehow, I think I absorb meat better. I don't know. Like nuts and grains, can be hard to digest and stuff like that, and things I'm allergic to. The problem is, every time I eat bread, I cannot go to the bathroom for days and days, and it's like, it's awful. And by bread, I mean standard bread. I eat gluten-free bread. I've noticed, like, when I cleaned up my diet at one point, although I did lose a lot of weight, unfortunately, because I was trying to figure out what I can and can't eat, and reintroduce food back into my diet. But I noticed that I had at one point no period pain. Period pain that is comparable to labour pains, basically agonizing fetal position. I feel like I'm being punched in the stomach, and I have been punched in the stomach. I know what it feels like. I have been in fights, so I know it's like absolute agony. Just, it's like twisting muscles. I know what people can say, and people used to think maybe I exaggerated, like, I have experienced, like, accidents that, because I don't show distress, people don't believe me. People do not believe me for years that I dislocated my shoulder. And it was absolute agonizing pain, and I was doing horse riding whilst being agonizing pain, because the nurse just said, "Oh, it's nothing, I don't see any scratches." I was in so much pain, and for some strange reason, I just continued during summer camp, basically cycling and horse riding. Oh lord, like, why did I do this? I basically dislocated my shoulder for my 15th birthday, and that was awful. And one of the main reasons why I dislocated my shoulder as well was because a girl rammed a tyre into the back of my leg whilst I was cycling. And the thing is, I tried to not let it get to me. These girls were like kind of bullying me and like purposely like riding their bikes into my bike. Like we had this class like riding their bikes on basically near a beach, basically the edge of the beach, but not on the actual beach. And because there was like sand in the crevices of the roads, and some of the roads went up and down, around the corner within 5 minutes of the incident of this girl like ramming her bicycle tyre into the back of my leg, which left tyre marks on my leg. I didn't even realise, I just tried to ignore it, because that's what you're supposed to do, ignore the bullies. And within 5 minutes, maybe I was upset, I was trying to hide I was upset. I took a slight turn, but the front wheel of the bicycle kind of got wedged in a bit of sand going downhill, and then the back wheel flipped, and then I went flying. I think I went flying, and I think I was even unconscious because my entire body flipped. I skidded down the road, and I had blood all the way here and here. Like, I had injuries like here, and here, like scratches, like skin and blood. I'm not like scared by like. I was not scared by that because I had plenty of accidents involving just bleeding, but I was in so much shock. I don't think I realised like I'd like slammed on my shoulder or something, because not only did I flip, I sort of like fell onto a bit to the side. I went flying by like, I don't know, a few meters it felt like. I might have even blacked out, and those girls kind of stopped and looked concerned, because I think maybe they felt guilty or something. They realized they had actually caused a problem for me, and I kind of wish there had been more justice in that, because these girls just for no reason at all came up to me and on the first day of school, because I changed schools because I got bullied and sexually harassed by some girls for no reason at all, in front of an entire class, or at least waiting for class. And then, like, nobody wanted to deal with it, and, like, the headmaster didn't care, nobody cared. I think the headmaster threatened my parents or something, which is kind of weird considering I was the one that got assaulted. And I then transferred to another school, and in school I didn't know anyone. I was a new kid again, because I've been a new kid so many times. Well, I just basically ended up in this situation where basically like these girls were like spreading rumors that I was mean because I don't know, maybe I didn't smile much, or because I've been assaulted in the other school. I was really quiet and I kept to myself, but like, I don't know, like I made a friend within 2 weeks of a girl came up to me and said, "Is it true you're mean?" Like, no. "Is it true you're this and that and the other?" And she said these things to me, and I said, "No, I don't know who these people are." And she said, this girl said, "I think you're nice, like I don't understand why these girls would say these things about you." And I'm grateful that she didn't believe what these girls who I hadn't even I don't think I'd even said anything beyond hello, and they were already telling the entire class that basically I was mean and a bitch and I was a bully or something. It was awful, and these same girls basically kind of sort of honed in on me when I was cycling and nothing was done, and I don't think I realized at the time, like, maybe all this was actually caused by them, in a sense. Like, I didn't just randomly dislocate my shoulder, I was under distress because I was already injured in the back of my leg because of shoving their bikes into me. Within 5 minutes of flying, I thought it was my own clumsiness or something. And ever since then I became completely phobic of, I'm utterly scared of riding a bike because I don't want to dislocate my shoulder ever again. And I was stockier, I was shorter than, I don't know, I don't know how I end up on this topic here, but I just feel like awful, basically. So yeah, I am trying to like sort of eat more at the moment, because I'm obviously not functioning too well at the moment, and it's very likely I do have some kind of problem, but I'm not sure what it is exactly. And if you got to the end of this, then thank you. And if you like this video, and not that you like it, then please subscribe. I don't know what else to say. Yes, I know this video is too long. But like, this is just an account, sort of like a vlog, and I do hope that I will be able to shorten the videos and maybe make them slightly more entertaining or something. I don't know. Yeah.